Let's look at the guide sheet again. We have already practiced how to do a start knot. We have also practiced how to do a finish knot. And we have practiced the running stitch. The other stitch that I'm going to show you how to do is called the back stitch. And I'm going to take my highlighter and I am going to highlight that. We're not going to do the overcast stitch. We're going to do the back stitch. These other ones are for different kinds of things. I have already threaded my needle and tied a knot on the end. I have my piece of fabric, and you should never lay your needle down on the table anywhere because it'll get dropped on the floor and then you won't know where it is. So the back stitch should be worked from the right to the left. So I'm going to be going this way. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go from right to left. Think about how you would read Hebrew or Urdu or Arabic. You read that from the right to the left. If you read English, you read from left to right. So we're going back this direction, okay? To start, bring the thread up to the front, about 1/8 of an inch in front of the start. So we're going to start very, very close to the beginning again. Insert the needle at the beginning, and then we're going to go down. It's kind of like, I'm going to show you. It's probably easier to see if I show you. Oh, by the way, I showed you the quilter's knot. There are other ways to do knots. And if that one's hard for you, your options are that you can look for another YouTube video. You could go over to Sew with Miss Jones, the Felt Friend, and in the Felt Friend, I show how to do the overcast stitch. And when I do the overcast stitch, I show a different way of tying a knot. So you could do that. Sew with Miss Jones, Felt Friends. All right, so I'm going to start out pretty much the way that I did before. Little tiny stitch. Little tiny stitch. These have to be little or else it'll fall apart. People used to call great big stitches on quilts toe hookers because when you were sleeping, you could get your toe hooked on one of the great big long threads that were on the quilt. So we're going to make little tiny stitch, not toe hookers. Okay. Instead of going forward and doing the dolphin thing like we did before, in and out, we're actually going to go backwards every time. So I'm still moving this way, but I'm taking my stitch backwards every time. So instead of going forward, I'm going to take my needle and go behind almost to where I started, and then come up a little bit ahead. Let me see if I can get this a little closer to what I'm doing. Okay, so this is where my thread came out. The thread's in the middle. The start of the stitch is behind it, and the end of the stitch is in front of it. Let me show you like this. Okay, start and the end. Okay. My next stitch is going to go almost back to where that other one was. And I'm stitching away from me right now just so you can see a little bit better. But a little bit behind that stitch and a little bit in front. Pull it flat. Again, we don't want to pull too tight because if we pull too tight, then we're not going to, it's going to be all puckered. I'm just trying to get this so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to get rid of my pin because it's just going to tie me up. Same thing as before. We only have one thread. One end has a knot in it and the other one is short. My short side's getting a little short, so I'm going to pull it down just a little bit more. Okay, back almost to the previous stitch. So back a little bit and forward of the string a little bit. Pull it flat. Back a little bit forward of your thread a little bit, pull it flat. And try to stay on your line. That one was kind of wacky, but you know, it should do its job. This is why we practice, because we want to make sure that we make them small enough and that we are staying on the line. Oh my goodness, you can't see anything that I am doing. Where is this? Here we go. Back a little bit and forward of your thread a little bit and pull it flat. Back of your thread, forward of your thread, pull it flat. Back of your thread, forward of your thread, pull it flat. And if you notice, I'm using this hand to kind of bend the fabric to help me get it in and out really easily. So back a little bit, forward a little bit, pull it flat. Back a little bit, forward a little bit, pull it flat. And I actually am not quite putting mine close enough together, but I will tell you that having little tiny ones and having them overlap like that is a lot stronger than just a plain running stitch. So I'm going to do just a little bit more, and then we're going to tie a knot, and we will be done learning our 2 stitches. So back a little bit, almost to the previous stitch, forward a little bit. I actually can do this better when I can hold it up closer to my face, and you might need to move this closer to your face while you're stitching. Make sure you're comfortable while you're doing this. And I will tell you, having a pillow on your lap when you're stitching also helps because it keeps your arms relaxed. I'm going to do 2 more. 1 and 2. Right along that line. Oh, I got better. After a little bit, I started to get better. That's what happens. The more you practice, the more confident you feel, and the more they look good. Okay? One more. I'm now going to take a stitch, and I'm going to go back, but I'm going to come up right by where the thread is coming out. So I'm not going ahead this time. And I've got that loop that I'm controlling with my other hand. I'm going to go 1. And it came unthreaded. I'm just going to use my fingers and pull it through the second time. And pull that nice and tight. Remember, you don't want this to pucker, so you don't pull tight along here. You just, when you get to the end and you're making your knot, you want to pull it tight. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to clip that off. Now, when you are working around your mask, you may need to stop and rethread your needle. Don't ever try to tie another thread on. What you have to do is do an ending knot and then get another piece of thread and keep going. There's one more thing I want to show you how to do, and that is how to do a corner. So I'm going to just draw a little corner here. And I'm going to rethread my needle. I think I have a piece here that's big enough. And I will tell you, in class, I don't like when kids lick the end of your thread. If you do that at home, there's nothing I can do to stop you. But my rule in the class is if you lick your thread, I won't help you because I don't want to touch your spit and you don't want to touch mine. And that's even more serious at this point when we are living with virus all around us. Okay? If you want to do that at home, that's up to you, but not in class. That's a no-no. Okay, I am going to move my thing just a little bit more so you can see my corner. And I'm going to just start over again and do some back stitches. And after you do this a while, you will become much more precise and your stitches will be neat and small. Just remember, if you make them too big, then your mask could come apart. All right, so I'm really close to that corner and I want to turn. I'm going to take that last stitch so that I come out right at the corner. Okay, and then I'm going to go down through the back. Okay, so I finished that stitch, and then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pull it up right close to the corner again. So I'm coming back up. Then I'm just going to continue doing those little back stitches. But I want a nice strong corner. If I just jump over the corner, I could end up with a little hole in the corner, and I don't want to have that happen. Okay, and what you would do then is you would just keep, and I'm having a hard time because I'm trying to stitch towards myself, and I work a whole lot better when I can turn it so I am stitching from left to right. So I'm going to quit right there.